A snowy day. Most people know my name is John Shannon. I have been in and around this organization since a cold and blustery night in Chicago in October of 1979 when the Edmonton Oilers joined the National Hockey League. And it's my honor today to be the Master of Ceremonies for the inaugural Edmonton Oilers Hall of Fame induction. Poetic justice, really, in many ways, that we picked November the 2nd as this announcement, because it was November the 2nd in 1978 when the face of hockey in this city and the face of professional hockey and the future of professional hockey was changed forever when Wayne Gretzky, Peter Driscoll, Eddie Mio became Edmonton Oilers. So this is a really neat day to announce the beginning of these people being honored. It's been 5 decades in the making. The Oilers Hall of Fame was created to honor the outstanding contributions and service of some of the Edmonton Oilers Hockey Club by their great members of the past. The inaugural 2022 class of Oilers includes legends Al Hamilton, Wayne Gretzky, Yari Curry, Grant Fuhr, Paul Coffey, Mark Messier, Glenn Anderson, Kevin Lowe, Glenn Sather, and Rod Phillips, obviously with their banners in the bowl at Rogers Place. In addition to the 10 enshrined inductees, the 2022 class now includes Lee Fogolin and Ryan Smyth, as voted by the Edmonton Oilers Hall of Fame Selection Committee. That committee is comprised of Wayne Gretzky, Ron Lowe, Louis DeBrusque, Chris Joseph, as well as Bruce McGregor. From the media side, Jim Matheson, Terry Jones, Bob Stauffer, Jason Greger, as well as International Chief Wilton Littlechild and two-time Team Canada Olympic gold medalist Shannon Zabados. Many of you are here today. Thank you for your contribution in making this such a special moment. Today we get a chance to speak to the 2022 Hall of Fame inductees, Lee Fogolin and Ryan Smith first, followed by the enshrined inductees that are here in Hamilton, Curry, Coffey, and Lowe. After the question period, inductees and members will be available to do scrums and one-on-one interviews. Tomorrow night, the Oilers will be honoring the inaugural Hall of Fame class at 6 o'clock before the warm-up, before the game starts against the New Jersey Devils. And then the inductees will see their names permanently enshrined in the ring above the PCL loge level here at Rogers Place. Also coinciding with the Hall of Fame festivities, it's important to note that the current Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation 50-50 raffle is in honor of another great Oiler legend, Dave Semenko. As part of the legacy that Semenko left behind, Dave's drive for Sports Central provides equipment to help ensure disadvantaged kids across oil country to have a chance to participate in sports. Here today, representing Dave's drive and the Semenko family, is Dave's son, Jason. Jason, welcome. Also here from Sports Central is Executive Director Sheldon Olekson. Thanks for everything you people do at Sports Central to help grow the game. Okay, it's time to introduce this year's Hall of Fame inductees. He was acquired by the Oilers from the Buffalo Sabres in the NHL expansion draft prior to that inaugural season in 1979. Lee Fogolin played 586 regular season games with the Oilers, recording 36 goals, 124 assists. Strangely enough, they don't mention the penalty minutes, but a plus-minus of 153. There's no doubt that he anchored the Oiler defense and saw playoff action in 78 more games as he served as team captain before he gave it to Wayne Gretzky in 1983. Ryan Smith's the all-time favorite of Oiler fans everywhere. He played 971 games over 2 stints for this organization. Edmonton's 6th overall in the draft of 1994. He sits second to Kevin Lowe in games played, and his 296 goals ranked 5th, and his points of 631 ranked 6th. He's an emotional leader who inspired teammates and fans alike, and he tallied 22 more goals in 68 playoff games. And who can forget his role in that great run in 2006, including the game-winning goal in Game 3. We had one captain of the Oilers in Fogolin, and we had Captain Canada, because you couldn't forget how Ryan played such a role representing our country at the Winter Olympics, at World Championships, the World Cup of Hockey, the Spengler Cup, and the World Junior Hockey Championships. He served as Team Canada captain on 6 occasions for IIHF events, hence Captain Canada. On behalf of the selection committee, please welcome 2022 Hall of Fame inductees for the Edmonton Oilers, Lee Fogolin and Ryan Smyth. Gentlemen. By the way, on a piece of ice, neither of those guys would have deferred like that when it comes to the game. We are now, we're going to be open for questions. I will, just to make it easy, I will just ask the first one. Lee, when you came to Edmonton, if I would have told you then that, 53 years later you'd still be here, what would you tell me?
Really have to think about that one. But I was honored and humbled to play with this group. And I mean, they were so special, a bunch of young guys that worked so hard and so dedicated. And I look at Kevin and I think about it, it was never give up, right? It was always that enthusiasm, let's go get him, right? And Koff and Yeri and Hammy, the first year we were together. And the interesting thing is that everybody remembers the great days, and which is really special, but there was a lot of hard work before that, and a lot of days we were scratching our head. I was talking to Gretz yesterday, and we were talking about how we came back from a long road trip, and Glenn called practice at St. Mary's Rink. It was like -40, and he had his fur coat on and a toque, and he's blowing the whistle, making us skate up and down the ice. And we're going, what the heck is going on here, right? But I'm honored and blessed to have played with this group and the Edmonton Oilers, and what a great heritage, that's for sure.
So Ryan, on your side, being drafted by the Oilers, one thing. What did it mean to come back? The famous trade to the Islanders is one thing, but what did it mean to come back as an Oiler?
Well, first off, I want to congratulate Lee. It's players like himself and these guys here that have paved the way for players like myself and the existing players now. I believe I got traded. Kevin traded me so that he wouldn't get. He would still be the more games played. So I think that's what it really came down to at that time. But no, I think overall, coming back and playing after I was here for that 11 and a half years, and the young group that the Oilers were having, Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle, and Yakupov, there was so many young players, and trying to bring in some veteran leadership was trying to help that process transpire, and obviously didn't pan out the way that we would like, but in the long run, it was just nice to come back to be an Oiler again.
Questions?
Hey guys, right here. Congratulations. Lee, you would have had some overlap with Dave Semenko as a teammate. Can you maybe just speak about the importance of Dave's drive involved in this week's festivities, and just maybe beginning with you, Lee?
It's just wonderful. Smyth was such a special guy, and he'd never laugh, right? He'd just have a smirk on his face all the time, no matter what it was. He never got excited. And the bonding that he gave to our hockey team and the courage he gave to us, it was just incredible. And you always could tell he was up to something. He'd come in the dressing room, put his house coat on, and sit there and smirk so you knew something was up, right? I remember the one night when I'd get dressed for the games, I'd roll my socks up, then I'd put my skates and put my socks on, and wait till the last minute before I'd put all my equipment on. And he's smirking at me, and I knew something was up. I wasn't quite sure. What he did is he took my socks and sewed them together so they wouldn't roll up my legs, right? And then when I went to roll my socks up, I'm thinking, what the heck's going on here, right? And I see the big smile on his face. Then I knew he had something to do with it. But he was an incredible guy, incredible leader, friend, teammate, just a wonderful individual. And I was blessed to know Semenko, that's for sure.
Ryan, can I ask you kind of a similar question? Just what does having Dave's drive involved in this week's festivities mean just for the team and yourself?
Yeah, I think he was so impactful in so many different ways, not only on the ice but in the community too. He was, I never got to play with him, but I played against him, and he was a scout for us at the time when I played. And I remember at the back of the plane sometimes he would pull you off to the side and just say, hey, what are you thinking on this type of play? And it was kind of intriguing. It's just like a kid from Banff, Alberta, growing up, and being in awe of all these players. Him fighting Tim Hunter all the time, and the amount of courage, like Lee said, that he brought to this team and this organization just gave these boys enough time and to do what they were, capable of doing. So to me, Dave was so much of an impactful, not only as a player, as in the community too. And I just, nothing but great things coming from him.
Go ahead. No, you can't ask questions, Koff. Stop. No. Yeah.
Just for Ryan, congratulations, first of all. John said it off the bat, you're an all-time favorite Oilers fans. What do you think it was that allowed you to connect with fans like you did?
Well, like I said, I grew up in Banff, and it's just hours down the road, and these were my childhood heroes. I tried to emulate Gratz at the time, and worked on up through my career. Ron Lowe was one of my first coaches, and just really inspired right from day one how I was as a player, how these guys really connected in the community. So I wanted to connect myself and my family in the community, and we got involved with the Stollery and a few other charities around the city. But to me, I felt like I knew every single fan, and they were very appreciative of the hard work, and I wore my heart on my sleeve and did whatever I could for the organization to win.
And one for Lee. I think it was Craig McTavish who said you had the pain threshold of a cadaver, if I have that correct. And I read about a story about you performing some sort of dental procedure using your own skate ahead of heart. Is that true? And if so, could you tell that story?
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but something happened, right? But it was funny. I was talking to Gretz yesterday a little bit, and when I sit here and I see Koff and Kevin and Yeri sitting here, and it was funny, we played New York, and I can't remember if we won or lost, but anyway, we're sitting on the bus, and somebody said to Kevin, "Where'd you go last night?" And he said, "Oh, we went and had sushi," and that was back in the late 70s. And Koff's sitting there, and he goes, "What the hell's sushi?" Right? And somebody said raw fish. And Koff says to Kevin, "Why don't you just say raw fish you went out for last night?"
So now, so the tooth story, is that urban myth or what happened?
That's true.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
No, what happened, I think I got hit in the mouth and I had to have a root canal done, and they put a cap on it, so I had to get the cap off to kind of relieve the pressure. So whatever happened after that, I'm not 100% sure, but
Okay.
He was in a hotel room at 3 in the morning in New York, had a toothache, took a hanger out of the closet, flipped the hanger, yanked the tooth out himself. So there's the pain threshold. That's a true story.
Bob?
A question for both of you about playoff runs, and Lee, we'll start with you. At what point during the 81 series against Montreal, I mean, maybe you had the sense of belief from the beginning, but, you know, as a, not quite a kid, but as a teenager watching it, we were all in shock because it was the Montreal Canadiens. Was it the same way for you guys as you're sort of experiencing what eventually became a pretty dominant series victory?
correct. Montreal just had a great team that year. And I, excuse me for my raspy voice, but I can remember going there, and Montreal was such a great city to play in. And the cabbies would all take you to the rink back and forth. And I can remember the first day the cab driver says we're going to the rink. And he said, "You guys think you'll win a game?" And then we won the first game. And then we had the same cabbie the next night. He says, "You think you're going to win another game?" Right? And we go, "Oh, maybe," right? We're not sure. And then we never saw him again.
And yeah, question for Ryan, just, you know, that 06 run, and that was really unexpected, though you guys had some, from an analytics and underlying numbers that suggested you had a better team than people thought. But you made a late season addition. Kevin went and traded for Dwayne Rollison, and it kind of galvanized your group. Just, you know, when you look back, that might have been one of your fondest moments. Just what was it like to be a part of that group at that time and experiencing that run here in Edmonton?
Yeah, I think it was since the trade deadline, we started firing on all cylinders. We made a few acquisitions that gave us a little bit more depth, and you know, we entered into the playoff seed, you know, 8th seed, and we had Rolly. Rolly was hot. I mean, anytime you get a goaltender the caliber that he was, I honestly believe to this day, if he was healthy, it would have been a different outcome. But that's part of professional sports. Guys get injured, and you know, I think it was just, you know, Pisani stepping up, and you know, unsung heroes making a contribute to you know, get the win. And you know, we had a group that believed in each other. Whether we lost one game, we just come back and find a way to win. So we were a hard-working group and a team that didn't want to be denied.
Lee talked about the Montreal series. When did you know you could beat Detroit?
When Brad Winchester went out and grabbed the squid after they threw that after the anthem, he grabbed it because Mac T told him to grab it, and I was like, "There's a statement being made right here."
Jason?
Lee, congratulations to both you and Ryan. You came in, and I don't know if you knew how great the team would be originally when you started with them, but you know, that's arguably one of the greatest teams of all time. Lots of great players, lots of Hall of Famers. But Paul Coffey and Kevin and Yari and Wayne specifically really talked about the importance of you on that team as a real mentor for all of them. How did you take on that role, and how are you comfortable in kind of being the voice of reason for a young and upcoming team?
Well, I wish I could take the credit, but I look at these guys and like they were young guys, but they were so enthusiastic, so professional, worked so hard. I can remember after the games, I mentioned the cough, he'd have a great game, then he'd be putting his exercise stuff on to go ride the bike for an hour after the game. And Yari, the way he'd take just the beating to go to the net to score goals, never say anything, never complain, just do what he had to do. And Kevin, I was so lucky to have him as a defensive partner. Like somehow we made it through, right? And I just don't know, like, as a partner and as a friend and the different things, and watch these guys grow up and how special they are and how hard they worked and how great a hockey players they are. It's really humbling for myself.
And Lee, you were really kind of the first Oiler, if I recall, to be the big guy in the commercials, Mr. Plywood, the plywood specialist. I think everybody remembers that. A few of your teammates came on board. Who was like the toughest one to get through the takes for all your Mr. Plywood commercials?
I really can't answer that.
Just curious, Lee, because of your difference in age with the young guys, would Slats pull you aside? You were the captain. Would he pull you aside after you and Blair and say, hey, listen, you've got to do this? Or did you know automatically what you had to do with the young guys?
I didn't have to do anything. It was them, right? Believe me. It was such an enthusiastic group, and it was so much fun to play with these guys. They were so cohesive. I could never remember walking into that room where people were angry or upset or arguing with each other. Everybody was really, really cohesive and happy, and although there was different age differences and things like that, like I told Kevin one day, it's like the perfect storm. It only happens once in a while where you get a group of people together and they just blend so well.
Jack?
Lee, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the change, the transfer of captaincy. That can always be a tricky thing, even on a successful team. Can you, in your own words, kind of describe that process? Because it seemed to take the team and for that matter, your own game to another level. I think you were an all-star after that. How did that process work, and how were you and the team so comfortable with that shift?
Well, I can't really tell you too much about it, except that, I was just kind of holding the C for when Wayne didn't have all that pressure on him all the time. And he was such a great player, and I often tell people, what you saw on the ice was the best, right? But what you didn't see off the ice was incredible.
Yes, sir.
I remember Wayne Gretzky making a comment once about the popularity of Dave Semenko, and he said that Wayne said that Dave was a blue-collar worker in a blue-collar town. And I would say that that's true of you two guys too. Where do you guys get your work ethic, and how did you keep that going, game after game, season after season?
Well, I just love hearing these stories. It's awesome for me to sit back and listen to Lee talk about the game, the Oilers back in the late 70s, and for me it was my dad. His hardworking. He was a hardworking man. He was a mechanic in Banff. Worked extremely well, extremely as hard as he could, from morning till dawn or till dusk, and it was just incredible to watch him. When I go down and watch him in the back, seeing him underneath a car. But to me, the work ethic rubbed off from him. And that's in that side of things, but in the hockey side of it was my teammates, just coming to the rink, seeing how hard those guys worked on a consistent basis to get to the next level. And, teammates are, to me, what makes, people successful.
Lee?
Well, likewise, it was my dad. He played for Detroit and Chicago in the late 40s and early 50s, and he moved back to Northern Ontario and had a service station there. And no matter what it was, the harder it was to do, the better it was going to turn out. And he was so laid back then, but he'd speak his mind. I remember his nickname. He owned a service station back in Northern Ontario. Everybody would call him the Pope, because what he said went. That was it. And I can remember the one day I was about 14 years old, and he didn't like the service station business at all. But after 5 o'clock, he'd go out and work on cottages along Lake Superior. And like I said, I was 14 years old, and he says, go pick up some 2x4s. So I take the truck, and I go get like a couple dozen 2x4s, and I get back to the garage, and he looks at me, he goes, you're so stupid. He says, how are we going to put anything else in this truck? Because I had them all leaned up on the tailgate. So he comes out, he smoked a great big cigar, and he's got the cigar, and he's lowering the tailgate. Well, he didn't think about the 2x4s coming down, and all 24 hit him on the top of the head. And I'm standing there with my hands in my pockets, and he's looking at me, and he's saying, God, you're stupid, right? And by the way, get your hands out of your pocket.
Anyone else? Listen, I know I can speak for everybody here. When the Hall of Fame committee announced your two names, I think there wasn't one person that didn't say, man, they got it right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.